Welcome. I'm Cielle Backstrom, as most of you probably know. And today I'd like to talk to you and lead you in a couple of exercises that I hope will give you a better feeling, embodied feeling about what we as Trillium Awakening teachers mean by the word consciousness. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the principles on which this work is created. And I'll back up just a little bit farther to give you some reference for that. In 2016, the Trillium Awakening Teacher Circle joined together on retreat, and we came up with the following mission statement. It's based on our name, Trillium Awakening. Now, maybe you know, and maybe you don't know, that trillium is a flower. It's a wild flower that grows in the spring. Lots I could say about this wildflower, but we'll save that for later. But our mission statement is based on our name. We came together to say that we recognize that we, as a group of teachers, are a wild flowering of whole being love and wisdom, dedicated to healing, guiding, and inspiring the fullest awakening of self, society, and the world. It's a pretty big statement. We're dedicated to the whole being love and wisdom, dedicated to healing, guiding, and inspiring the fullest awakening of self, society, and the world. There are 3 petals of the trillium flower, and each of these petals represents an aspect of our teaching. There's the petal of consciousness, the petal of embodiment, and the petal of relatedness. I wanted to share this background with you, just to bring it into your awareness that this is what we're all about. And these 3 components, these 3 petals, consciousness, embodiment, and relatedness, are equally important on our path. But just right now, I want us to turn our attention to consciousness. The Trillium Awakening Teacher Circle has created an orientation course. And in that course, we state that as we move into, or more deeply into, whole being realization, we say that our conscious nature becomes tangibly and unshakably awake. Now, what do we mean by our conscious nature? What do we mean by the word consciousness? The same orientation course reminds us that consciousness is the infinite ground, which is always registering everything while remaining untouched and unbounded. That's a pretty packed sentence. I'll read it again. Consciousness is the infinite, transcendent ground, which is always registering everything while remaining untouched and unbounded. What else can we say about consciousness? We can say that everything is pervaded by consciousness, and at the same time, everything is a reflection of consciousness. Everything is pervaded by consciousness. That means our body is pervaded by consciousness. We ourselves. It is the deepest contact we can make with ourselves. Consciousness pervades our body, and it also pervades the environment too. It pervades everything. Consciousness is who we fundamentally are. And because of this, because it's our fundamental nature, we don't experience consciousness in the way that we experience external objects, such as a tree. We don't have a subject-object experience of consciousness. Consciousness experiences itself. It's self-aware. Consciousness becoming aware of itself. So again, it's a little bit difficult to figure this out with the mind because we don't experience it as a subject-object experience. Consciousness itself experiences itself. Another thing about consciousness is it's always what is awake in us. Consciousness is that which is always awake in us. And yet, paradoxically, our process of becoming awake to it is a journey. We might wonder how that is. It's just because we are accustomed to living in our mind and emotions. We didn't have a template as we grew up to live any other way. And so as a result, we kind of overlooked the obvious. We didn't allow our attention to rest as consciousness itself. Now, a direct experience of consciousness doesn't have to land in us by grace. It can. We may recall times in our life when just almost out of the blue, we experience that transcendent ground of being that underlies all of creation and connects all of creation. It can happen by grace, we could say, but we don't have to wait, and we don't have to hope that if I'm lucky enough, it will happen to me. It doesn't have to be a fleeting moment, and it doesn't have to be directly experienced at random, unpredictable moments. It's our ground state, and we can invite our awareness to notice itself. It is already and always here, and we have the capacity to notice it. I also acknowledge that because consciousness is not experienced as an object in our awareness, it can be hard for our minds to comprehend what the word means. And in addition to that, you might not resonate with the term consciousness. There are many different terms and expressions that different spiritual traditions have used instead of or along with the word consciousness. So I'd like to take a few minutes to sense into some of these expressions. And during this time, I invite you to notice which of these expressions resonates with you. The resonance that you notice doesn't have to make sense to your mind. I invite you to just simply listen to the words and notice what happens inside of you. Notice which ones, again, the word resonance is the best one. You seem to be attuned to certain expressions. Now, before I read these words, I'm going to lead you in an embodied attunement that will help turn attention inward inside the body, because it's easier to sense that resonance when our attention is with the body. So, I invite you perhaps to close your eyes. When our eyes are closed, there's less things that are stimulating us, and we can then bring our attention inside more easily. But it's not necessary to close your eyes. See what works best for you. I like to start with a moment of just allowing myself to connect with my breath, and invite you just to connect with your breath the way that you connect with your breath. You might notice the rise and fall of your chest as air comes in and out of your lungs. Or perhaps you notice the air going in and out of your nostrils. However you connect with your breath is right. Take a moment to let your attention be with the edges of your body, like your hands and feet. Notice what they're resting on. And notice the outer areas of your body that are resting on whatever you're sitting on. Just to notice that texture. Is that chair or cushion you're sitting on, is it firm or soft? Is it warm or cold? Just notice. And see if you can rest into this sense of being held by that chair, cushion, floor, whatever you're sitting on. Letting yourself be held. Rest into that support. And allowing your awareness to go to the inner parts inside your body. Include the throat, the area of your heart, stomach and belly. And allowing your awareness to rest inward. Listen to these expressions. Notice which ones feel right to you, resonate with you. I'll read them now. Awake awareness. Ground of being. Unified field. Pure consciousness. Universal awareness. Ground of oneness. Buddha nature. Primordial awareness. Fundamental consciousness. The unmanifest. Non-dual. Self, with a capital S. Unified consciousness. Pure awareness. The transcendent. Being. Larger space of awareness. And notice if one of these expressions works best for you, if there's more resonance, delight in that recognition, use that expression. It works for you. Now, with your awareness still turned within, noticing that inner space now, noticing if it feels any different than it did when we first started this exercise. Let's try one more brief exercise. There's no expected outcome to this exercise other than taking a moment to sense within. Your way is the right way. We've said before that consciousness is that transcendent field which is always registering everything while it remains untouched, unbounded. Consciousness is quality-less. It's not bound by time and space. It itself has no qualities. It underlies the whole manifest field of change. And yet, paradoxically, when we attune to it, we may feel qualities in our bodies. So what I'm going to do next is read some qualities that may be felt when we allow our attention to rest as consciousness. And just as you did before, just sense for resonance. Some people, when they allow themselves to rest as consciousness, feel a sense of expansion. For other, the words presence might be a quality that they notice. Fluid. Connection. Effortless. Love. Radiance. Non-ending in time and space. Essence. Balance. Non-moving. Non-changing. Stillness. Held. And so just again, take a moment to notice, did one of these words or expressions, or a few of them, resonate with you? Perhaps you felt these qualities at times when you felt a sense of unity or non-separateness with the world around you. And you can invite those qualities to be felt fully at any time. I suggest that from time to time, refresh whatever is your present moment experience of the larger space of consciousness that is always here. You can do this refreshing consciously. You can use your attention and focus it towards those qualities. You can consciously turn your attention toward the ground of being, however it shows up for you. And if it doesn't seem to be showing up, it's okay to use your imagination. Our imagination is an incredible spiritual tool. Let's not try to figure out what it is. Not try to figure out what consciousness is. Simply allow yourself to find it in your body. You might find that it's easier to find it within the energetic space that Trillium groups create. Or you might find it easier to allow your attention to rest as it during our gazing meditation practice. You also might find an identity shift in which you discover you fundamentally are consciousness. As your identity shifts from the small, changing self that you have been living, one time a baby, then the self changes to a toddler, then to a school-aged child, then to a young adult. As your identity changes, perhaps for a while a mother or a wife, a husband, a father, a business owner, our identity changes. And you might, through this path, and through the cultivation of our identity as consciousness, you might find that there is an identity shift to the fundamental truth, the non-changing truth of who you are. And as you continue to turn towards this ground of being, you will find ways to rest in the truth that you are infinite, timeless. Even if at times it feels like you're not resting as that infinite timeless truth and only getting next to it or close to it, like I'm almost there, rejoice in that. You will discover and deepen into the larger space of present moment awareness that is both individual and collective. All is well. I'd like to close with a bit regarding one of the values of cultivating this larger sense of awareness. In doing so, you'll find yourself more and more naturally and effortlessly resting in present moment awareness. And from that ground of being, that consciousness, you will come to appreciate that all of life's ups and downs are eternally held in sacred love and trust. The sacred love and trust of present moment awareness. You will come to realize, to recognize, to grow in the knowing that your doubts, fears, worries, concerns, sadness are not asking to be healed. They are simply asking to be held, and you will do this. You will be the refuge that is including all, welcoming all that you are, exiling nothing. I invite you to take a moment, if you haven't already done so, to bring your awareness to this field of change, the field of changing life. You could say it's coming from outside the inner realms of our emotional, energetic, physical body, and bring your awareness back out to the world around you. If you haven't done so yet, open your eyes and always give thanks to your body, which only knows how to be in the present moment. Thank you for joining me today.